And 2 more here on the first floor, but those are through the sanctuary. So if you need access to those first floor restrooms, just find me or anyone working the event tonight and we can get the door open for you. I'm really, really thrilled to be with you this evening, and we have a lot more wonderful events coming up in May, so would love to see you again soon, and I'll just tell you about some of those events. So we're back on Wednesday this week for readings by Emily Johnson and Cut Wolf Eileen Miles. So that will be really, really wonderful here in this space at 8 p.m. We have a really special event on Sunday, Mother's Day. We're doing a free marathon reading of questions to ask before your bat mitzvah that will gather almost all of the contributors to the book and will be a really beautiful opportunity to learn about anti-Zionist radical Jewish tradition together. So would love to see you on Sunday for that. That's from 4 to 7. And then next week on Wednesday, we'll hear from Joelle McSweeney and Eleni Siciliano. So a lot of really, really great stuff coming up in the weeks ahead. I hope to see you back here for some of those readings. And with those announcements behind us, we can turn our attention to tonight's program. And I'm so delighted now to turn it over to Claire Donato to introduce Fulla Abdul-Jabbar.
I'm going to read Fulla's bio and then I'm going to read my intro. Fulla Abdul-Jabbar is a writer and artist living in Brooklyn. She has performed, screened, and exhibited nationally and internationally, including at the Electronic Literature Organization, Human Resources LA, the Brussels Independent Film Festival, and the Ann Arbor Film Festival. Her writing has appeared in Diagram, Bombay Gin, Jellyfish Review, Passages North, Northwest Review, Prairie Schooner, and elsewhere. I want to put this somewhere where it won't spill on a laptop if I need to take a sip of it. There's a little spot where my phone, I'll put it at my feet. Okay. During the COVID-19 pandemic, my friend Fulla Abdul-Jabbar, at the time a new Pratt colleague, and I started doing a daily YouTube meditation entitled Affirmations Meditation to Attract Love Instantly, Manifest While You Sleep. Extremely powerful, exclamation point, closed bracket. The visual aesthetic of the video featured a masculine silhouette standing on the beach at sunset, 24-point all-caps sans serif century Gothic font gradually swelling over his body, animated by iMovie. All caps, attract love into your life, it said. Quote, I am constantly surrounded by love. I feel love everywhere around me, everywhere I go. I am love. The YouTube video's voiceover declared in a British accent as birds cooed in the background and ocean waves rippled. Then another font appeared over the man's silhouette. Was it Bodoni size 76? Listen to this every day when you wake up and before you sleep, it read. Each non-article and non-preposition in this phrase was capitalized and therefore rendered into a proper noun, as if this order was also a title. I'm not exactly sure how Fulla and I found or began doing this daily love meditation, but we quickly bonded over the ridiculousness of our shared activity, and in particular laughed again and again about one of our YouTube guru, also known as the yogi with the Lamborghinis, slips of the tongue. I am amagnetic and irresistible, he said with confidence. But didn't he actually mean to say, I am magnetic and irresistible? I am amagnetic and irresistible, not magnetic, but too powerful to resist, much like a scientific poster. Fulla Abdul-Jabbar's debut coming-of-age book, Who Loves the Sun, explores scientific posters and the problems with scientific poster sessions, mother-daughter relationships, the morning diary, and love. The book begins with the author recollecting her relationship to science. She studied biochemistry as an undergraduate and was enthralled with and frustrated by poorly designed scientific posters, a staple of the discipline often used in academic conferences and symposia to share with attendees ongoing or preliminary research. Quote, "My interest in a scientific poster became less a design case study and more a device through which to discern how scientific and artistic disciplines meet," she writes. "I wanted to understand looking at them and being bored by them, but still looking at them over and over. I wanted to understand my attachment to them. I wanted to understand my frustration and obsession with them." In my mind, these quotes elucidate why we were drawn towards such a tacky and repetitive YouTube meditation. Who Loves the Sun is a nonfiction book and a multidimensional book, and especially a poetry book, because, as C.D. Wright once said, poetry takes in. The book reminds me of Agnes Varda, Maggie Nelson, Renee Gladman, Claudia Rankin, and Sawako Nakayasu, and gleans language from sources as wide-ranging as Daniel Harms, Caroline Bergvall, The Velvet Underground, The Swan Princess, David Bowie, Japanese death poems, and Carrie Brownstein. The early part of Who Loves the Sun references myriad academic articles and books outlining expectations for poster sessions and presentations of data, super seminars, legendary lectures, and perfect posters. The Science of Presenting Well, one book is called. Better Posters, a resource for improving poster presentations, is the name of a related blog. Who Loves the Sun also incorporates emails exchanged in 2010 between Fulla, then an undergraduate, and her lab mentor, Bruce. The two navigate 5-chloramethyluracil HCI gas and scheduling complexities. Give yourself a half hour
to set up, 6 hours to react, and a few minutes to tear down, move to the desiccator, Bruce writes. How does all of that organize your life? Sensitively written, very funny, and unafraid to articulate the heart's depths, Who Loves the Sun bravely organizes a life punctuated by shyness, the desire to overachieve, and the emptiness anyone might feel amidst overachievement. If not the best, what is a self? Or if one is the best, what else is there to be? I laughed aloud when Fulla analyzed her usage of a colon in a research essay title, Towards Overcoming Bacterial Resistance, synthesis of novel aminoglycoside dimer antibiotics, which indicates to the reader, quote, how delicate and challenging the work was through the cadence and technical terms. When a principal investigator, Janice, reads Fulla's abstract for a paper and tells her she doesn't know how to write like a scientist, Fulla's fire is ignited. Quote, with spite, I began to collect information about how to construct posters so that I could make a better poster than she thought me capable of making. She begins to research the rules for scientific poster making. They are detailed and prescriptive, down to recommendations about how female scientists should dress when presenting their findings. As with women's fashion, the posters warn against a superficial or obviously showy overdoneness. Quote, another way we might understand this is stupid pretty, Fulla writes. One writer even went so far as to call it a fear of being perceived as a dumb blonde. I appreciate how misogyny in the scientific community is so clearly articulated in this book, and how this articulation makes way for feminist intervention and poetry and glitter to take its space. So I could not resist getting Fulla this bottle of roll-on glitter as a gift to commemorate tonight's reading. In Who Loves the Sun, we learn that Fulla loves David Bowie. A morning diary in part processing his passing is central to the book. And at one point, young Fulla accidentally wears residual roll-on glitter to a parent-teacher conference. This moment stays with me. In preparation for the conference, she attempts to wash her face twice. It was important for me to look like a good student, uninterested in silly things, she writes. Still, the glitter sticks to her, and her teacher points it out. Fulla is angry at the glitter, but later elated when she is placed in a group of gifted students and given a packet of spare worksheets covered in silver and gold stickers shaped like stars. In another moment, she pours loose glitter atop a colleague's scientific poster. The residual bits get caught in her hair. Quote, I looked at the glitter in the mirror, itself a tiny mirror reflecting the light of the larger one, a moon reflecting back the light of its sun, making the night glow. Here, generously and with tenderness, I can be the writer reflecting the reader, the glitter reflecting the mirror, the sun reflecting the moon, and I thank my stars for this beautiful book. Please join me in welcoming Fulla Abdul-Jabbar.
It's 5-chloromethyl-uracil. And I promised myself in the book that I would never use glitter on my face again. But maybe I can break that promise. Let's see. First, I wanted to say a few things. Thank you to Claire, thank you to Laura, and thank you to Anna. It's a pleasure to be reading at the Poetry Project. And I want to dedicate this reading to students and teachers. I don't know what one expects when looking at a beginning. I think it has to do with being able to recognize a seed. Being able to say, if only I had been there, then I would have discovered you. I discovered you. I recognize in you something special, and I believe it is worth sharing. But this is also a beginning that is not very good, an obvious product of its time and its influences. Little is here to anchor me. I still cannot distinguish. Was this once anything? The beginning, when it is bad, is comforting. What of it? What remains of it? The closer I pull what remains towards me, the more it escapes me. Or maybe it's crashing. I'm trying to pick up the pieces, but I've lost the pieces. They somehow disappeared. They were just here. We took off our shoes and crawled into the large gray dome, which we called a turtle. It was dark inside there, and when he turned on a light, it became night. We sat on the floor, looked at the stars, and gave names to groups of them. Some stars were special enough to have their own names. Then it was time for a new activity. The teacher, who was not our teacher, but one that traveled with the dome, passed out a sheet of paper which contained lyrics to a song. You probably know it, he said. We had a practice round, and then we sang, and then he pushed a button. We sang to the sun, calling it Mister, and asked him to please shine down on us. As we sang, I watched the sun move through the sky, erasing the stars we had named and revealing a bright, empty blue sky. At a lab meeting, our group of 9 sat around a table made for 6 in a room that was not a room, but a closet. Janice was excited for our upcoming conference. Our lab, she said, should show our leadership through an impressive display of our exciting new projects. That meant having 2 posters instead of 1. With her fingertips, Janice squeezed her tea bag to extract every last drop of goodness into her cup. When she was done, she threw the bag at the trash bin and missed. She shook her fingers dry and announced that I would be in charge of making one of the posters. I started by writing an abstract for the project. Janice read it. She laughed at sentences she found funny. She said that I didn't know how to write like a scientist. With spite, I began to collect information about how to construct posters so that I could make a better poster than she thought me capable of. I sent John, my mentor in the lab, a quick email asking what people should get out of a poster. I thought knowing the ending would help my beginning. John had been a technician, starting with the position I now had, for over 30 years. He began his email reply by explaining that he had stopped going to conferences 15 years ago because he believed that they were a waste of time. Mostly, John said, posters were something to point at to start a conversation. Most of us are not very good socially, and it's better to have some tangible thing to point to and say, "Hey, tell me about this," than to coldly recommend yourself to someone hoping that they'll find you interesting. I took what John said and then did my own outside research. There is a lot to read about posters online. Articles, blogs, group Flickr accounts. They all said that there was a right way to do this. There were many rules, and they were intricate. There was the advice I expected about color, font selection, font size, wordiness, but there were some who gave detailed prescriptions regarding line height, types of words to include in section headings, observational distances from the ground and from the audience, and types of paper to print on. Curiously, advice about the presenter's clothing seemed very common. One scientist suggested, perhaps in jest, that one's outfit should coordinate with their poster. Another was more severe, restricting what a man could wear to a dark blue suit with a plain white shirt, and to women he prescribed a similar outfit of a dark blue skirt or pantsuit with a white, very pale yellow, or very pale blue shirt. Heels should not be high. He apologized to the women, acknowledging that abiding by this rule would be difficult, given the wealth of choice in women's fashion. But unfortunately, this is what it took to be taken seriously. I discerned two kinds of good looks that these science poster advice givers were concerned with. They warned against a superficial or obviously showy overdoneness. Another way we might understand this is stupid pretty. One writer even went so far as to call it a fear of being perceived as a dumb blonde. They instead aimed for a more complicated visual appeal. Rather than adorn their work with decoration that could deceive the audience, they favored pared-down approaches, as if this would expose intrinsic merits of their work, its inner beauty. In this odd way, they were trying to prove that scientific work didn't need to look beautiful to be beautiful. Later, I am in art school, and I'm preparing a lecture for artists on the design of posters in scientific fields. Despite the artist's assumptions, I had never made a scientific poster. The poster Janice asked me to make never came to fruition. So I needed to prop up my legitimacy through research. Once again, I needed guidance from science. Dartmouth has a guide to designing and printing a research poster on their undergraduate advising and research website, where they provide 4 examples of good posters. But before they provide the links, they provide a warning. The PDFs are large files. Each will take a couple of minutes to load. They tell me to be patient. I arbitrarily click on example 2 and wait for it to load, patiently. A large rectangle of seafoam green appears before any of the text loads. The poster is called Overcoming Challenges in Lung Cancer Chemo Prevention, Retinoic Acid Receptors and Smart Drugs. I want to read it to understand what made it good. I am immediately struck by the term chemo prevention. What is chemo prevention? At first, I think it might have something to do with chemotherapy. As a preventative measure, though, chemotherapy seems extreme. But then I realize I have failed to see the chemo in chemo prevention for what it is, a prefix meaning chemical. Prevent lung cancer with a chemical. That seems worth doing. This poster was made by Neil Desai at Dartmouth. The swoosh shows me his effort. Maybe it is a metaphor, this swoosh. Beginning from the phrase overcoming challenges, it arches over the results section and lands and expands in the conclusion, an arc of the scientific method. I read 3 sentences in the introduction on why lung cancer is a problem. Lung cancer is often caused by smoking. Quitting smoking can prevent lung cancer, a non-chemical way. But people still smoke. People still get lung cancer. We should still treat them. I agree that lung cancer is a problem. I move on to the section about retinoic acid. Retinoic acid is all trans. That means that instead of drawing its chain of double bonds in an incomplete circle, you draw the bonds in a zigzag. I've always preferred trans bonds. It makes it easier to judge how much space on the paper I need to draw the molecule. I avoid the how do retinoids work diagram. There are solid arrows, dotted arrows, white arrows, green arrows, straight arrows, and curvy arrows. I am unable or unwilling to discern the difference between them. But it doesn't matter because it's the results that are important. Now that I'm here, I've already forgotten the difference between the 2 cell lines, BEAS2B and BEAS2BR1. Given the presence of the letter R, I assume the R1 species is resistant to retinoids. I could go back to the introduction to find out, but I keep going, hoping that it'll eventually work itself out. The BEAS2BR1 cell line has less growth suppression. And here I remember it is useful to move backwards in a chain of negation. Suppressing the growth of cancerous cells is the point, so having less of that would mean the R1 cells are more susceptible to developing cancer despite the presence of retinoids. Now, I look at the images of the Western blot gels to examine protein expression. Neil must have carefully cropped the relevant bands, whose darkness on the image will show us how much of a particular protein is expressed. After figuring out the combinations of pluses and minuses, I can see that cyclins are degraded in the presence of retinoic acid in the BEAS2B line and not in the retinoic acid-resistant BEAS2BR1 line. I don't decipher the second Western. I stop reading. I look at point 2 and feel overwhelmed by the number of bands I have to decipher. My mind turns to other things. I wonder what messy bands haven't been included in the image of that gel. How clean is the gel really? How many times did poor Neil have to run this Western before it was clean enough for publication? As a rule, I skip the methods section unless I know for certain that I want to use their method. It takes too much time to go through every detail about buffers and purification steps, especially during a crowded poster session with people waiting behind you. I realize now that I am not at a poster session. I am at my computer. No one is around, but I will not read it. Perhaps that is wrong. I am happy to see the word conclusions. I receive confirmation of the difference between the 2 cell lines. I learned that the first half of the research was conducted to confirm a condition necessary for the second half to move forward. It's in the summer that a friend, Greg, asks me to deliver that lecture. He is curating a series of performances and lectures that comment on or imitate the scientific or academic symposium. He knows of my poster work and he thinks that I will be a good fit. I am flattered by his invitation and immediately I agree. After postponing work on the lecture for months, I clear a week before the date of the symposium to prepare. I have a lot of material to work with. I feel dry writing it. The writing feels forced and unnatural. I don't know what I'm saying. I have a feeling like I'm speaking in a different voice. The feeling does not have to do with want for material, nor has it to do with an inability to put words on the page, nor has it to do with fear. Always there is fear. The issue, I think, has to do with the words themselves, the words I'm saying and how I attach myself to them, or rather how they don't attach, no matter how close I pull them. My mind is elsewhere. My mind is with Debbie Reynolds. In the car driving to the symposium, I tell Greg about Debbie Reynolds. He seems confused about why I'm telling him about Debbie Reynolds. Because she died? I tell him about diving deep into her work and finding a moment when she's wearing a sparkling pink dress and singing a song she's not supposed to. I tell him that I'm saving the discovery for later. He asks if that means if I'm saving it for the posters. After I deliver my lecture, a man approaches with greased hair and a long, unwrapped scarf dangling from either side of his neck. I recognize him from the front row, and his knowing smile makes me anxious. He tells me he is a scientist. He knows about posters. He hates making them too. Everyone does. He offers me advice. The only thing that he finds really useful in delivering presentations is to create a narrative. I tell him I find this curious, that, in my experience, many scientists seem quicker to accept their practice as a narrative one rather than as a visual one. He says that this is because science cannot help but use language, which is narrative. I offer that language is visual as well. I do not convince him. I do not convince myself either. I'm not sure if language is visual in a way that actually matters. Science is not poetry. Science should not be poetry. I think what I meant to have said in that moment is that science cannot help but use visual elements. But does that mean that science is visual? What about the scientist? A scientist is not poetry. I wished the man would go away. Later, I see an announcement for the first MIT Media Lab Design Summit called Naughty Objects, where they are to discuss objects entangled between art, design, science, and engineering, represented by the objects brick, Bitcoin, steak, and phone. I think of the science poster, and I decide that I have to go. I take my seat in the auditorium and wait until the lights dim. The conference begins with a video. I sit there as the large, dark auditorium swells with the sound of electronic music, and the black screen on stage fills with an animated white ribbon, erratically looping and spelling out brick, Bitcoin, steak, and phone. The words dance, flicker, and then disappear. Pentagram had designed the brand identity for the event and are responsible for this animation. It's the first time I've heard of a conference having a brand identity. Pentagram is well known in the design world, having designed the identities of entities as familiar as United Airlines, Yahoo, Rolls-Royce, Fisher-Price, and Warner Brothers. They also designed the brand identity of the MIT Media Lab itself. Clearly, aesthetics is something the Media Lab cares about and invests in. I guess I don't know what I expected in terms of visual design, but I can't help but feeling there is somehow too much of it. The organizers are superstars in their fields and experienced TED lecturers, which is clear from their opening remarks. They have mastered the casual gait of the thoughtful but ecstatic lecturer, pacing to and fro on the stage, gesturing with the hand that holds the laser pointer, and pausing when they make an insight into how to change the world, while spreading their fingers and opening their palms, inviting us with them on that journey towards change. The pacing resumes, of course, when they tell us that yes, there are still many obstacles to overcome. A reception follows. A boat filled with ice and oysters sits in the center of a museum gallery, and servers circulate with petite versions of local foods. Champagne is served to facilitate discussion. Perhaps I remember that evening bitterly because I was upset with myself and my own shyness. There were many in attendance whose work had inspired me. It didn't feel likely that I would be in the same room with them again, but I was paralyzed by fear. I go back and forth to the bathroom for useless positive self-talk, and eventually I give up. I make myself a plate of chilled shrimp and settle on the patio steps overlooking the pretty harbor, where several others have also sat to discuss the events of the day. Perhaps I was not most angry Perhaps I was most angry at myself, for all I had longed for was an object to point to and say, hey, tell me about this. I was angry that I was fitting the description of the introverted scientist who needed a social crutch to facilitate interaction. Angry at myself for needing a piece of paper with words on it to get me through this insufferable mixer. I now wonder if all those articles I had read were right to warn against aestheticizing. Clearly here, although the goal may have been to show how science and design could fit, the Media Lab had gone too far and missed the point. They had dressed up science in fancy, flashy clothes that were nice, but just didn't fit right. Italian designer Bruno Munari describes one model for a particularly compelling poster. He calls it poster with a central image. Roughly speaking, this poster is a variation of the Japanese flag with a central circular image. The poster is successful in how it is able to arrest the viewer's attention. Standing out from its background, the shape itself traps the eye, causing it to go round and round. The viewer must tear themselves away. This is unlike the case with multi-sided shapes, where corners and edges provide the eye exit strategies. A triangle offers the eye 3. Having pulled the poster so close, a nanometer from the surface of my eye, I find a disc that is no longer central or circular. Although my central image seemed at first focused and contained, I find upon closer inspection its shape to be more similar to a many-sided polygon, previously appearing smooth only through poor resolution. My eye is now trapped along the edges, trapped escaping. I must tear myself away. I buy a 16-ounce jar of silver glitter. I take it into my studio, pop the top off, and pour the glitter onto a copy of Neil's poster I had accidentally printed out, far too large for the wall of miniature posters I was building. I pour until the jar of glitter is empty. I poke my finger into the sandy, reflective mound. I pour it back inside the jar and blow off what is left on my hands. At home that night, when I look at myself in the mirror, I find a single circle of glitter caught in the hair just above my forehead. My fingers are too fat to remove it easily, and I give up trying to control it and allow it to follow me until it falls away. I look at the glitter in the mirror, itself a tiny mirror reflecting the light of the larger one, a moon reflecting back the light of its sun, making the night glow. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fulla. That was really beautiful and fascinating and rich, and I'm so grateful for this book, of which we have copies available for sale if you don't already have it. In so many ways, but in some ways in particular, I'm so grateful for the reflections on shyness. I really, really love it. Thank you so much. And I'm really excited now to turn it over to Tanaya Nasser Frederick to introduce Tilghman Alexander Goldsborough.
Yeah, I concur. That was really lovely. Thank you. Where am I? We are all frail and already broken, plump or ripe for picking, chinches debating the terms of eternity. Drunk, I burn off half a mustache, lighting a lipped roach. I'm Terry Gross. Tilghman's writing negotiates porosity and disgust. It records the political life of a nervous system. I felt the outside of my skin and the space it carves in normative order beyond that. Or, I distinctly remember that there is a skeleton underneath my skin constructed in such a way as to tag me human, earth. Where normative order is felt, more ready at hand than the skeleton, an eclipse of distance that simultaneously creates an enormous range for the eye to locate itself. In the poem, I turned too fast for myself in this, sorry. Sharp turns, okay. In the poem, this is while holding his brother's rangefinder, but he's marking out temporal distances that have nothing to do with it. That the rangefinder is his brother's feels like a very Tilghman thing, for whom typically the body and its direct purview alone take on possessives, my mind, my eye, my sedation. What emerges is a subjecthood that commands such marginal agency that surrounding objecthoods can partake in it. Moon takes my place, is not seeing the moon or saying goodbye, but is abuse by way of neglect, intuitive to Jack Spicer's radio antenna thing, acquiescing to requirement or advertisement, necessity or catchy brand, and the poetics of product specs. Ambivalent to the joys of consumerism, trying to be devotional to the dust without building walls, not being a connoisseur of walls, but injured by them, so on the surface one has only infuriating convictions, like avoiding therapy, so long as discomfort in universe occasions song. In Object 7, this line, silence from towering structures hemming me in. At the beginning of the Western, which was written later, this line, recently I've been glitchin', standing still at a brisk walk. Those are different bodies, from the encroachment of towers to a seizure as an architecture, enough years of discomfort that melancholia glitches and fiction can begin to cohere. Being a depressed object is one thing, but Object 7, glitching, is another, and the antidote, the idea of the Western, the desert, but also the bucolic dystopia of Samuel R. Delaney's Dahlgren, or similarly, similarly, that's what I wrote. What's the word? Similarly. It doesn't sound similar to what I'm thinking. Dahlgren's, so Dahlgren, or similarly, nostalgia for the aughts, is a cessation of stuff, means also unstoppable flood of stuff, means getting ahead of the flood, the idea of a durational euphoria. It seems like the limit of effort, like fighting through a football scrimmage, when Tilghman breaks into the generic self-willed revelation at the end of a lyric poem. A question of belonging haunts the measure of distances, but the sober relief in the poem is self-mocking. As the blinds shut, they burn up so familiarly, and we respawn at the genuine, passionate fervor that took us there, with coffee to chase vivarin, non-caloric energy, faith to mistake for mania, a record of the nervous system, the magnum opus that recurs through Object 7 being a big plastic bottle stuffed with cigarette butts, where the elements condense to black. Vibrancy. There's a Katamari ball attitude in Tilghman's ambulations, such as, and a strange compulsion to shove handful of shattered glass into pant pocket from Object 7, and found a shard of glass in my omelet, looked at it, swallowed it whole in the Western. It's between the two texts that you realize just how many pleas for salvation there are, that want to irreparably gash a flesh process in place of an accumulative process. I want to not believe these things. It's also a complaint about the left, is bound to contempt for its naming, a primed for radicalizing, counter-hegemonic, Tilghman satirically contains engorging. The complaint is concerned with whose sacrifice revolution entails, too. Oblique self-harm inverts the balking gap between what's necessary and sufficient. Jimmy watched death approach till he's receding and recede till he's approaching, never losing sight of him. That till with an extra L is Tilghman, and the irony of holding his brother's rangefinder when he's himself a temporal measurement that the poem holds, but with an ulterior motive, the poem as a fourth dimension, like Tilghman's motives are ulterior to his brother's rangefinder. So there's a critique of stuff. And, and this negotiation with forever, where though we are in stuff's hands, we alter it, just as the stuff in our hands alters us. We bend the poem to purposes of our duration for the duration of our purposes, and render purposeful durations out of a prism of compulsion, of non-caloric energy, without having ever meditated. It's a very reactive critique. It defenestrates empty concepts in favor of defining negatively, feeling less free and more not enslaved, not admitting pronouns, circumventing I and you often, strives to be empty itself. And like and like a bifurcated seismograph records cardiac and non-cardiac rhythm. Just the friction of ancestor shit in this fucking place, which is martyr shit. The material of Tilghman's weird fucking name begs this fate of deferring identity without dissolving it, affecting this sort of intimacy among strangers that that has to, in an egalitarian sort of way, become self-effacing and remote in turn. A haunting cold breath is gasping down neck, so that the speaker doesn't declare itself so much as it implicitly acts through the excess of haunting cold gasping down, where empty existence crushed by contact with the real isn't a cry or a fantasy, but a note on technique, letting hell and its impacts make a John Chamberlain sculpture of your voice, a crushed vehicle, the resolution between porosity and disgust, a threshold to forever. Tilghman Goldsborough.
Crazy. That was nuts. It's still nuts to me that people are reading my work in in a serious manner. It's kind of, I don't know, I still feel like I'm in Chesterfield and my parents upstairs typing, trying not to be depressed and watching HGTV till 3 in the morning. Cool. This is exciting. Thank you, Poetry Project. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thanks to all the staff and tech folk. Thank you, all the homies in the room and all the next to homies and all the friends of friends. Cool. Let's see, what's the time like? All right, let's do this thing. Yeah, I realized as I was sitting back there as Tanai was talking, I forgot one of my poems. It's really cute to put it on the typewriter, but then it's just on one single piece of paper. Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So sorry to my friends who've been seeing me read. I'm gonna read some old shit, and I have one new poem that was supposed to be the entire length of this thing. It's supposed to be 32 minutes, but I was in California and enjoying myself, so I was busy doing that. What page is this one? Western Sketches, Cinco a Go-Go. Hot dust from Rodney's, cooled by fresh plums, picked from paint bucket, parked by bloody blue. Gray tile, wood panel, big mirror floor, clay-colored village, 1,000 miles from Addis, breathtaking beauty cracked with sadness. These valleys are craters packed with absence. A haunting cold breath is gasping down neck, frightening animistic connection, and negating enlightened logic, them cracks spewing Renee's reasons, fetid mists of waste. Delicate drops marking with musk, me in my very own religious red headdress, hard and plastic, stuck in iron bars of green chicken garden, chasing the crickets who sing in my dreams, green pants, red vests, white gloves, blue hats, a minced oath, packaged in pouches, pointy straw punctured, formerly flat, now crunched with crinkles, cross purple muscle throbbing and squirting, covered in end of trepan drip, cord cranium swung in a circle, third-grade tornado trapped in a bottle, blue water spitting idle green-gray chunks, a complete corpus clenching, imitation of climax, body in motion, barking voz alta, under electric blue, raspberry flashes strobing spotted orange. Stop to make a moment, an offering to the sun and the moon, to the ground and gravity, universal webnet holding us down, caressing faces, crushing lungs, connecting everyone with persistent touch, nappy nodes weaving fabric of reality, clear quilt covering stench, settling in New Amsterdam, death dance returning over horizon, full body flex, gasping jackknife, pulling slow to quick with taffy-like motion as I gobble raw frog with booty spoon, while galloping in green, headed downtown, battered body, leaking pus, dripping salt, wrung from Koch Bridge. Coke? Koch, Ed Koch. Wrung from Koch Bridge. Dermis brushed with lye for crispy brown skin, sweet like a Jersey peach. Or hot bag of brownies, melting Ziploc to credenza, dip spit Gatorade, warming in back seat, hot topping for frozen waffle product, main course for fully balanced breakfast, seated human, nibbling golden edge on the day he turned atom. Hairy element floating in space, contraption to carry liquids, coated with fatty duck liver during dinner at Damascus, where gray gremlins, dressed as human men, grab a kid off the street and pin him to the wall, long, thin needles through fleshy part of wrist, buried over land, concrete makes sure you can't touch the ground, keeps your feet from mother, healing power packed into arches, rather left hanging, toes dangling, in soft stress position for public to witness, black boxes turned to plastic turrets. Yeah, I realized halfway through I've never finished buttoning my shirt. My fucking titties is all out. Yeah. Cool. How's my collar? Cool. Yeah, I realized in California I've been writing a lot of stuff about Palestine. It's not. anyway, it's like a vibe shifts. I'm thinking about vibe shifts. Cool. I mean, I still did it. I wasn't opposed to it, but I did notice. Anyway, cool. Next one is one of the 23 experiments, some of the bits from the Woodbine reading, November 4th. Was advised to investigate my own need for superiority, enacting empire in miniature, trying to base justice in a threat of violence. You're a little European in your thinking, standing in long stall mid-collapse, gift the sin of jasmine and all of pure will. What comes after romance? Social realist renditions, mythological Mediterraneans, uncooked reality, charred and smoldering, makes impossible sitting on ass, swiping through home screens, daily reminder, wide world right here, not so distant if you see it. Imagine the sense, hot bread, singed hair, cement dust, rebar, cold tea, one sweaty shoe. Every imagined metaphor involves equivocation, in this case, a lessening of truth. I say with chest, I do not condemn. Don't ask me stupid questions. Stop the occupation, start a new world. Wobble shelf, phone hits floor. They're molding my thoughts before I have them. No space even for obvious questions like, why is this still happening? What make it okay? Same thinking wrought Rochester and Rajasthan. Place euros in brown soil and watch the money tree grow. And So what if branch falls off, starts whole fire, burns down village with 12C olive trees? Message something like, I hate you so much I'll kill myself. Visualize our victory, they're already defeated, star foretold, galaxy glamored, said by the universe. Strength to every fighter, for every one the will of 2 million. There is no God but God, 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 but a whale with red puddle wet sock sensation, least of worries, still mark a very bad day. Thank you. Thank you. Another light, easy, fun guy. 23 experiments number 23. Please, San Marco, I'm begging you. 20 million niggas acutely need assistance. All right, no, I'm gonna say it because it's gonna bother me. Okay, so when I wrote it, it was 220 days since. Now it's 387 days since. It doesn't work rhythmically, but I had to change it. So that's what I was gonna say. Okay, anyway, nobody cares. Current fighting between Sudanese army and rapid support forces began Saturday, 15 April 2023. 387 days since, Schwarz Ludwig Josef Johann, trapped in Gabacho, looked toward ancient Nubia, heart and parcel, truth of the myth. From here, worried about, is my hairline straight? Yearning for unconditional, extra-familial. 2 civil wars killed 1.5 million black Africans, some specific, here term used loosely. I wonder why no one hears, looks, takes attention. Green equilateral ancient Kush, current Nubians, invent originators, a culture, wisdom, understanding. White woman in red ski mask, shadow boxes to DJ Screw at the bar. Spent the day cleaning shit out my Nikes. Corn husk led belief it was human. What has Western man to offer Sudan? Mostly mean the people, least millions in dire straits. Is it anti-black to want to rather whine about own woes? Been a rough week. Semi-acrimonious kind of dissolutions in midst of cataclysmic act. Call it polypocalypse. Carrying cute. Diminu bag of pantalone. Am drunk and world weary. Desire further escape, a way out, an assumption, somebody telling me why we deserve this, forever washing collards, never eating greens, say a strident statement what finally makes a difference, now dark tobacco and green Altoid 10, violent hiccup, taste of lime, gotta pull through for my people, not get lost, free Palestine, liberate original Asiatic with supreme mathematic, lift all twisted assumptions, submit to singular truth of the universe, sniff a scent pink, unwashed and winking, seem like they might try and do us all in, uns umbringen, en masse, like they do in Balata Jabalia, assassinated, targeted, collateral, caught in grip of conscious neglect, everybody hands simultaneously in air, waving just like, combined with shrug and eyebrows, ultimate bewilderment leaps pathological. Guess these niggers just don't want to get along. They still kill you for being alive and relatively dark-skinned. Peace to the mass elite and the boys the school cop don't like. No Keela in my Rita, just cold and need to pee. Bacco-stained brown pants, don't care for this music, don't mind that it's playing. Pretty good, okay song by your friend's cousin or artist and acquaintance manages. Detonate defense mech, dissolve into dissociative distance, floating in warm earth tone, Mariah vibes, essentially orange. I want to rest, I want to go home. I don't know if I found it yet, don't know about here, can't say hi to soccer-playing neighbor, can't absorb another massacre, where's the fucking action? Something to bring decisive change, get that lick back, make you feel whole. 2BH, I really left house to get some chicken, perform a walk in prayer for my people, focus on visions for a vibrant, joyful future. Everybody free, feel safe always in their house or walking down the block, won't be put in danger for assummation or enacting power differential. Enacting power differential. Lesson learned is to move more conscious, every step intentional, eat fermented foods for the good of my guts. I hope I have it. Demonstration might prove traumatic. It's like I dissociate while I'm up here. It's pretty cool. Like you really just like all fucking disappear. One score 13. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here. That's not what I'm trying to say. That's not what I'm trying to say. One score 13. Red left, white step glyph. Enter into Virginia flood basement mold. Scent soft linger after remodel. Exit through interior. Follow path cross green. Barn-like garage. Meat plot of aubergine squash. Rise, slow, silent. Clad 99 tidewater. Shod no number J. Vibrant, her organ waft stick pun me. Jeans rise from basement and life atop industrial grid. Caution. Map ends at Costco, other end is Elbit. Split open to scent fading Parisian. In front of stairwell to Condé Nast skull and bone locked with keycard. Person sees a person, framed line bunk radiator. Paul signs Meineke truck lettering, neon awnings. There is no but, and he is multitude, and he is infinite, and April 1st, April Fools, and here seek speak truth, elegant, eloquent, a graceful back turn under scaffold, stream strike wall, graffiti green, red sticker remind a genocide, PH make a F sound, REE, Nick Juice make you nauseous, want way clear for total devotion, old head shouts from the balcony, don't do it, it's gonna shred your guts. Po body don't deserve it. It's just trying to warn you against the instruments of the white folk. Penny tasting ashen soul snatcher. Roaming out from PA cave. Malodorous metal mist. Coats Quaker counties. Location of breath reception. Passive acceptance pulls into fabric. Transforms. Turns original Asiatic into doofus on an e-bike. Puffing a vape. Pushing, plotting reform. Soundbite like 20C Euro intellectual. In room cut half-third by two mock Corinthians. Really, we should look to nature. Perfect column, a pile of turtles, EO, flat, hollow, spherical triangle, around which one squares 7 before kneeling, with blue ceramic held aloft, full of fingernails, plus red paper pouch packed in naps. The magic is the ritual. It's in the incant, usually involves fire or fluid, plus earnest devotion. Seriousness like chewing, lose focus, choke, or bite your tongue. Show yourself to not be good at living, dead, dick out with belt round neck, bone sore bubble boy, newly gangly, bug eye gagging, bleeding out dusty clay BK floor, whole scene shot like belly, black people look mythico beautiful, a cautionary tale about playing with spirits and the wrath of God, gotta learn the tesseract, look within, not lose contact, wake up, hit the daily double, unlock kryptonite and exit to running water, leafy death, some been sacrificed, been cloaked big weave plastic and form a preferred currency symbol, a poly love-struck S. Love is a shield is a suit in most highest forms, joints all articulated. All right. Oh yeah, so I just said that. I was in California. This is, if I can find the shit. Okay, here it goes. I don't think it has a title yet. I've been referring to it as California Poem. The title on the document is California 2 Lechuga Crujiente. All right, let's see. Cool, let's see how this goes. California 2 Lechuga Crujiente. Reverse concrete clock numerals etched Roman, blue, green, kinda yellow, brown slides through orange, fronds, fruits, annihilate blasting, sonar god junior, obscurant in revelation, tumble rock fuchsia cascade, skyward, old head concert advert bubbles over blue gabo memo, black meeb indigo folk roho no ozoner, bushel of sugar swords buried in rock, in dash hail now im dash is the long one. M dash hill, now gone, not forgot. M seated upon candy apple concrete atop Montecito, facing sunset outlines of mountains, backed by Turtle Pond, past a murder on hot coal bins before ascent, gave some like directions to a stranger in lingering interaction I'm sure I miss beats of, busy staring at confusing German carpenter-like kit, with vest, wide trouser, obliga knife, tools hung off utility, ears on rustle sounds, wiggling tall grass. Started off scared of coyotes, then saw a couple rabbits. Still, movement out of sight, within reach, requires attention usual. Ending abbreviated Holly Forest walk over here, disjointed, following keys remembered in pockets front of Ralph's, feeling firehole, not hearing instructions uttered after secret purchase, pre-Martin meet. Later, follow sunset west, see longtime friends connect happily after long absence, during reclamation of plastic. One friend, a seller by Parkgate, suburban. Oh, fucking autocorrect. One friend, a seller by Parkgate, Subir for night come, the wink, orangey pinky peach, long stretch, no sights but all, 606 Parkman to political encampment, under bridge, nasal taste of people, slow turn west on the shady side, ceaseless 20th sea, looming, stuck, frozen, implanted, scarring landscape into beauty, death drink sup by osmosis, excrete waking pizza pastry under organ pixelated, blurred for too much nudity, exposed and rendered edgeless, feature-free masterpiece, sudden rightward turn shocking, seeming viscerally fully hedonistic, parched petals stretch, giraffes nostalgia climbs, elevated grade continuous green, peaking hut habitations and taupe exterior, angular and glaring, mildly inebriated off hubris and substance. Blood curdles scream a child's play. Swing still carries momentum. Mom wears leather while dad is the government. Papa Papillon, teal A-frame, in the happy. Three sister greet leant shaggy at end of drive up tilt. Ghost boy David Freddy traces path down long edge. Upper folds to lower. Silverhorn alien eye. Oakley stems o'er crown. A red cap. Tie-dye tee. Cross-eye smiley hurling. Jort's house constructed. Big red boots on board. Blonde goatee matching brows, all way left to Ceaseland, kind of fantasy land, full of fairies and smiles, upturned corners etched in seawater stone with live quicklime deposits. Strong man carny bodies seated in blue-green Ethioasis, soil baked in open oven next to Lovegate left unlocked. Glare dispels nethers, unboxed brief, the day egg meets eye, nutritionist liquor, coffee brown toasted, bare, rejoining humanity, prostrate before peyote cock potted and distant cypriot, spires marking holy sites, points of prayer, nodes of life instantiated, bow head, drink poison water, ergonomic delicious, while beg forgiveness, mercy from universe, keep hard eyes open humble, prayer for victory, protection by love singular, halting, green lemon scented, under traces slow wave by left bush bougainvillea, purple pair of trinities, eye leak as I listen, arms exposed featherless, frail and finite against bark soft, days numbered, joy infinite, free like food, plucked and or gutted, only costs the walking, while the pleasure is the walking. Stop, make fire, watch an ember flutter, lose sight, find chest cold, then ground sufficiently damp. And cow colder, 6 hours north, miss southern ease, spy hokey on emery roof, door closed to outdoor couch, sky blue on Cinnamon, stuck behind Autobot, cornered from twinkling fire hazard skyline. Fine Malibu at Chubby Noodle past Sardina Dorada, 1221 floor checkerboard behind Red Curb, where vulture flies over original titty, Euskara blonde, soft lavin wall, rose gold bonnet, mountains surrounded by sailboats, couple of nice yachts, past top-down Sebring, note red bridge in the distance, man grows out rocky outcrop, peers over abyss, through glass Pellegrino green, remembers Ricky Martin holding hostages, queuing up for red white royalty. Can't eat a camera, I'm trying to make a living. Eat 3 hot squares under roof-walled stable. Start Cinca with Cointreau oxeye. Shit in pitch dark. Take best guess at cleanliness. Emerge to stained glass Pompeii decimator. Mandarin character Kerouac corner. Sip Cadillac special, keep cash for askers. Become ash-covered bone structure. Stricken, stuck in position, unable to move past or grow new epidermis. A, skin thicker, essentially chrome stoic, steel, unflinching, also somehow lighter, a bird above it, air pockets fill marrow, float away uphill, way from Blade Rennen Prong Pyramid through Eitalberg, get to green 245, stop, roll up, film walking crow nearly raven, catch view from upper terrace, entrance to Buena Vista, some como Guanajuato, dome spires Catholic front a tree, Dome spires Catholic, front a 3-stack mountain, each peak a G, rise logarithmic, slow creep in plein air treed, slow dance with next to no motion, more Ahsokan, earth dragon features into place, you is where you is till you ain't, feel grateful for this day gorgeous, the warning label for city coyote, the chilly wind crashing to ground, the trees blocking view, realize I'm thinking somewhat more clearly, as another mysterious echoes Austin, during arrival to Panhandle, edge of known, tin ring sky tilted fluffy uppers visible, see fuzzy salmon edge of majesty, get a call and turn back. Cool. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tilghman. That was, I just think that was really and truly great. Those poems, they amaze me. And thank you so much to Naya and Claire. I really, really loved the introductions tonight. That was beautiful. And thank you again, Fulla. This has been such a wonderful evening. Before you go, be sure to visit B at the book table because we have books from both of tonight's readers. And thank you again for being here. I hope to see you very soon.